Hey, this is Lee Balcom. I don't have a lot of time. I'm kind of in between coaching calls, but I just got off a call and I started thinking, this is probably something that lots of people think about because I get this question very often, and that is this. Is it even possible for me to save my marriage? Or as my client asked, Doc, give it to me straight. Can I save my marriage? Great question. If I had a crystal ball, right? The thing is, we humans like to have some prediction model. And many times people have said, if I knew that I could save my marriage, I would get started. And I think that reverses the thinking on this. So let me put it another way. No, I can't guarantee you using my approach or any other approach that you can save your marriage. But I can almost guarantee what happens if you don't try. Unfortunately, when a marriage is in crisis, if it doesn't get the attention it needs and you don't move in a way that's helpful, you're moving right towards divorce, right? You probably already know that. That's why you're watching videos on how to save your marriage. But I want you to kind of think of this on how we would think of other places. Some time ago, I was talking with a person who, we were just talking about finances and that kind of thing. And I said, hey, how are you doing preparing for retirement? And he said, oh, I have nothing saved for retirement, not doing anything. I said, are you not planning on retiring, or are you planning on not living that long, or what do you think's going to happen? And he said, well, nobody's been able to guarantee me how my money's going to grow. Nobody's been able to guarantee how fast it's going to grow, how much I'll have at the end. No matter what I do, I've asked all kinds of people and they can't tell me what the outcome's going to be. And so I said, well, let's reverse that, just like I'm suggesting to you. If you put nothing in retirement, you're guaranteed nothing for retirement. That is a guarantee, right? So what might happen if you put your money in is it will build. That's likely the outcome if you use competent people to help you, and that is an important fact. We need competent approaches, whether we're planning for retirement or whether we're trying to save our relationship, trying to get help for our relationship, whatever it is, we do need to get competent help. No doubt about it. So I think we'll all agree that part of the task is to make sure that you're using an approach that would work. But then you got to do the work. And so part of what I suggest people do is to be thinking about the outcome you would prefer. Is it the outcome you're headed towards, or is there another outcome you would like? And if you're headed towards an outcome you don't want, what are the ways that you can move it in the other direction? How can you make a shift? So part of my suggestion for you is to not get stuck thinking about the barriers of moving forward, and instead focus on how can you deal with what you need to do. What do you need to do? My approach is based on 3 C's. And what I have discovered over the years is these 3 C's will keep you in the right lane to get where you want to get to. So here are the 3 C's. I'm going to tell you right up front. Connect, change, create. Connect, change, create. Connect with your spouse. Now, you've got to be careful on how you connect, right? Because a lot of the times people thought they were connecting, or they connect in the wrong way, or they use too much force. So you got to make sure that the connection is a way that the relationship can handle. Then you got to change yourself. Let me be clear. I don't know you, but I do know some truths about humans, and that is that all of us have places of stagnation in our life. All of us have places where we could grow, can be more, can move ourselves to a higher place. So we need to work on that. It doesn't mean you have to go for a whole psychological redo. That's not what I mean by changing yourself. But where have you neglected your life? Changes, maybe it is psychological, but maybe it's emotional, maybe it's physical, maybe it's spiritual, maybe it's outlook in life, maybe you've lost your zest for life, your zeal for life, and you've got to regain some of that, and you've got to start moving forward. And so a piece of the puzzle is figuring out how you can change the pieces that are important. I'm not talking about, completely redoing your life. In another video, I want to talk about the fact that what I often see is people who do a 180-degree turn, right? A lot of times people say, well, you need to do a 360. So back to geometry. If you're headed this way and you do a 360 all the way around, you're headed the same way. But what people do is they do a 180 and they're heading off in a very different direction. That's usually not the thing. In fact, just the other day, I had a client who said, I don't know what to do with my spouse. They did a 180-degree turn and they're nobody I even know or care to know. This is not who I fell in love with. Sometimes it's a much smaller shift, 30, 40, 45-degree change in direction, right? You got to get to somewhere better, yes, just not 180 degrees. So changing yourself is not reworking everything. People tell me, I just don't have the energy to change. That tells me how stagnant they've become. If you don't have the energy to change, you're stuck with where you are. You have the capacity of changing. You get control of how you're going to change. So connect with your spouse in ways that make sense, in ways that will be received, in ways that are not demanding but inviting. Change yourself in ways that where you need to grow, you need to expand, you need to become more of yourself. Create a new path. And I've talked about this in another video about how you become a we, right? And that's creating that path to be a we, because also, I've heard people say, I just want to get back to where we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it is. And my thing is, that's not where you need to go back to. You don't even need to go back. You need to go somewhere different, because where you were led you to here, right? Where you were led you to here. And if you were to go right back to that, that's where you're ending up again. So we got to find a new path forward, the we path. And there are ways that you specifically want to do that. So that's how you move forward. Lots of details in there. And if what I just laid out for you is enough for you, go save your marriage. If it's not, let's talk a little bit more, because let me tell you, one of the things that I think is important is to have a plan in place to work on saving your marriage. I mentioned this, talk about a little bit in my Save the Marriage system, but I go in detail with a whole process of how to do that with people who join my VIP program, along with lots of other resources. But it's important enough that I want to make sure that you're serious about that, that you're going to sit down and really do that. And so part of that, let me just lay out the first step of that. And this is an exercise for you. The first thing I want you to ask is this question. Scale of 0 to 10. 10 being, I'm all in. And 0, nope, forget it. What is your level of commitment to working on your marriage? What's your level? If it's a 0, a 1, a 2, you're not going to get there. If it's a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you're going to put forth the effort. The higher you go, the more the effort, right? And so it may change also over time. Like if you're just kind of in a struggle right now, you may go, it's a 6. And then suddenly your spouse says, I want a divorce. It jumps to a 9 because you don't want to lose something. It also could crash to 0, but you're not going to be watching this video if you're at a 0, right? So my guess is if you're watching this video, you're already upwards of 5, maybe upwards of 7. And you need to lock that in and say to yourself, that is what I think. I am committed at a 8, 9, 10. And then I want you to do something else. Take out a piece of paper and write down all of the reasons you want to save your marriage. All the reasons. Now, after you've written them down, I want you to go back and look at the ones that are fear-based. And they almost always start with, I don't want. I don't want to lose half of my retirement. I don't want to lose access to the house. I don't want to lose access to the kids. I don't want to have to go date again. I don't want to have to give up my friends. I don't want to have to deal with all of that. Those are all fear-based. Fear does not get you very far. You adjust to fear. We all do. And so when you adjust to fear, suddenly the fear reasons no longer have any standing for you. They just fall apart. But then there are aspirational reasons why. I want to live into the commitment I made in my wedding. I want to break the multi-generational divorces in my family. I want to show my kids that you can have an intact family. I want to discover true love. I want to have a wonderful marriage that everybody can look at and say, that's a great marriage. I want to fill in the blank. Those go on another sheet. That sheet is the one you look at whenever you're having doubts, whenever you're struggling. And these days, I'm seeing a lot of people struggling. And I'm always, when they call me and they're like, I don't think I'm going to continue this, I ask them, have you pulled out your whys? Why are you doing this? Because those begin to be your orienting point. They keep you moving forward because the big whys, they don't go away, even in tough moments. The I don't wants, you'll get used to that. You'll find ways to think differently about what's going to happen with the money and everything else. That's just what humans do. The more we're exposed to fear, the less that fear motivates us. But the more we have aspirational beliefs pointing us in the direction we know we need to go, the more likely we are to continue pushing forward. So let's kind of recap. Your plan first needs to be written. Second needs to include those 3 areas: connect with your spouse, change yourself, create a new path. You also need to be able to go, how motivated am I to do this? Am I 8, 9, and 10? If I'm not, why am I not? What's gotten in my way? Now you go through and you go, oh, here are my whys. Sometimes people will tell me their whys and they go, you know what? I am not a 7. I'm not a 6. I'm an 8. I'm a 9. I'm a 10 about this because this is important stuff. Some people don't realize this, but divorces are 3 generations in effect directly. 3 generations in effect directly. I think there's a 4th generation effect that's a little less direct. But when people get divorced, they affect their own generation, right? That's what they often think of. It's just the 2 of us. It's all it affects. Not realizing how painful it is for parents to watch their kids go through such a painful thing. So it affects the parents. I've seen it in my own family, not in my immediate family, but in my extended family. I watched my grandparents suffer through what was going on in their families. Then it affects the kids directly, right? When kids are in a family that divorces, their idea of a family is completely torn apart. And I've heard from adults who told me how much it changed everything for them. Next generation. It also affects what they do about bringing kids into the world, and directly it affects the 4th generation. That's how important this is. And sometimes people lose track of that because they're stuck in the pain and they don't realize just how big this is. If you do, and you're motivated, and you're ready for some help, come visit me at savethemarriage.com. That's savethemarriage.com. This is Lee Balcom wishing you the best as you work to save your marriage.